Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much it's so crazy to do this so last minute and at not what is it, 6 p.m. I don't think I've ever done a live stream this late, but it's so great to see y'all. And I definitely wanted to just do this real quick. I'm still working on your forecast for this week. I usually have them done by the weekend. I'm not even close. But anyway, great to see everyone. Paula, oh, that's so funny. You get to watch a live stream from New Zealand. Yeah. And again, this is so not normal, but I feel like I needed to come on board because I'm getting a lot of comments and questions. And I had a couple other channeling sessions that I wanted to just put it out there and let y'all know. And you'll see I have my notebooks too. But the other thing is, if you have any questions, feel free to ask if there's anything that you have questions about, because clearly there's, a lot of things happening right now. And I did say there's going to be a little bit of a squeeze this month. There's going to be some challenging moments this month. But in the end, they're all part of, we have, it's like those tests that we have to go through. So yeah, definitely ask any questions. And my voice is already kind of gone at this point, so hopefully that you can hear me. All right, so it's so great to see you. And it's just like I just got back from my trip, and I did your Saturn Neptune video. I didn't realize this would be as long as it went, so that's up if you want to take a look at that. It went pretty long. I could have got a lot longer, but anyway, I did want to also mention that I'm going to bring up some astrology. I'm going to do that now. Remember, we do have, and they perfect tomorrow. It's Mercury squaring Neptune and Saturn, and then we have Venus square Pluto. But you're going to feel it this weekend. Like I said, you're going to feel all this energy. The great news is we do have that. And so, yeah, you're going to feel a bit of a squeeze, right? And Mars square Uranus. So that's always a little when you let's say those are just more lower energy frequencies. So think about like throw their like ingredients, putting that into like a pot, right? So it can get a little bit turbulent with that type of energy, but again, you're gonna see a couple other things play out. I'm gonna tell you, right? So I got my notes. The other thing that I was gonna say is that we do have that full moon in Sagittarius that is happening. That's gonna be on Tuesday. And because I missed last week's readings because I was away with my family, which was amazing, by the way. I needed that little break, and I encourage it for any of y'all. If y'all need a little break with Jupiter Saturn square, it's always great to have a little moment, even if it's a day, if it's 2 days. It's the last one, right? It's the last one. And I did mention that Jupiter will eventually trine Saturn. That's already going to happen this year, but the big one is next year with the Aries Leo axis. But anyway, or Aries and Leo. But the full moon is big. All right, it's pretty much in the middle of the year, and it's a Jupiter ruled full moon. There's got to be some changes, all right, that you're going to see as full moons do. But remember, you have to see it more as like this blessing in disguise for they play out. And you're going to see things play out throughout this year, and we're going to walk through that. So just bear that in mind. And I hope that you're, and that's the thing, is that it's a Jupiter ruled full moon in Sagittarius. Jupiter rules Sagittarius. The moon is rules Cancer. Jupiter is moving into Cancer tomorrow. So you see that mutual reception. Do you see how it's an amazing full moon? And the other thing is that I want to remind you that world astrology, mundane astrology, very different from personal horoscopes. Okay. So very excited to see all of y'all. Let's and that's the other thing. Remember the moon. I always say this: talk to the moon, speak things into the ether, the things that you want. There's this full moon brings a stroke of luck, yeah, and optimism and abundance for you in your personal life, it also reflects the sun, okay? The sunlight. That's where you're getting it. So remember, that's you, sun, soul, soul. All right. So uh, here's the thing. There may also be something with like the courts, maybe some negotiations. It's a very spiritual full moon. At the end of the day, it's going to have a really big shift for you. All right. Especially with your mindset, maybe even your beliefs. You may even have moments where you're getting like winks from the universe. You may have already been feeling it, and you will throughout next week. Okay. In terms of what you want to do, your goals, there is a lot happening with all this cardinal energy, and I'm working on your forecast for next week, right? To be posted this Wednesday. Everything's happening between 1 to 2 degrees, 0 to 2 degrees, the degrees of fresh new beginnings. And remember, these planets are in signs that they haven't been in a really long time. Pluto and Aquarius, 250 years, right? Saturn, Neptune together, they're conjuncting. They're so close. They're a degree apart. So that's strong. And I did a whole video on that. And then Jupiter in Cancer. So that's tomorrow. Are you excited for that? Jupiter exalted in Cancer. So, and even, I don't really do world astrology, but I do the channeling and this. So even from like a world perspective, Cancer is all about home, as you know, but also homeland. So you're going to see some. Anyway, here's the thing. I'm going to bring, so if anybody, again, if you have any questions, let me know. Happy to answer your questions. What's happening this weekend is going to be really strong with all the squares that are happening, and it's building up to Jupiter moving into Cancer. There's so many aspects and transits and just so much happening in this condensed like 2-3 day period. What day is today? The 8th, and then the 9th, Jupiter in Cancer, and then we have the moon in Scorpio today anyway. There's a lot. So of course the moon is going to conjunct Juno, but anyway, this is definitely going to be you're just entering this new chapter in your life. But I also did say from last year, you're going to see the biggest changes this year, changes that you never thought you ever see or could believe. And a lot of that is going to play out. And so I wanted to first, let me just look through. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you some things that I wrote down here. All right, let's do that. And if you have any questions about the weekend, feel free to ask me. But just know that there's things that are going to build up a little bit. And then you're going to see a little bit more happen in July. And I'm going to walk you through that. And so when I do this has not what by channeling and the psychic stuff, and I'm still like that word, but this has nothing to do with the astrology. It just happens to align. So we picked up. So remember, we already talked about last week. It was a few weeks ago. I mentioned Italy. I said, pay attention to Italy. This was 2 weeks ago, right? It was 2 weeks ago. And so as we know, that volcano erupted. Okay. I also did say there was a bridge that you're going to hear about. And so that I Googled, there was one in, Russia. There's 2 bridges that, okay. So those happened. And I have said since last year, if you're a subscriber, you know that I've been saying this since last year. And pretty much in every live stream that I do, these channeling predictions, I've talked about the earthquakes and the tsunami. And that's a strong vibration still. And I said that I even talked about this on Amrit's channel, Inspired Evolution. That's a strong vibration that still sits with me, that still comes up in vision. So I know that it's not only going to happen, but it does feel soon. And so I did mention that. And I did mention the California coast, but also the entire western coastline, the West Coast. And I mentioned all those countries in Asia. And, I think it's in my last live stream, but, Japan, Philippines, and Indonesia. I mentioned them all over there. So just keep that in mind. And what's really interesting, remember, like every live stream, you'll see me talking about this because it's always like up there. It's always coming up whenever I channel. And now there was something like, well, a lot of news channels are like reporting on this now because I think they just found out about that volcano in Oregon. Anyway, I don't watch the news that much, but when I have to like fact check this or look and see what does this mean, I'll do that. And then there was something about just know that may be a possibility soon, but we can change timelines. Okay, we want to vibrate at a high frequency. And I talk about how we all have biofields. We're made of energy. Everything's made of energy. I think I mentioned this in my last live stream when we've gotten to a point where it's like there's two extremes. It's like a rubber band, and we're connected with Earth, with Mother Earth and the energy of Mother Earth. And so there's gonna have to be a little bit of a like release. Okay. So it does feel significant is all I'm saying. And we can change timelines. And I talked about this. It's very possible, but we have to do this together as a collective. All right. And so I want you to know that I don't want you to doom scroll. I want you to live a life of joy and happiness. Trust your intuition, be your authentic self, vibrate at the high frequency of love and compassion and kindness. And sometimes it might be hard when the other people around you are not. And so that could just be like a little mini test for you. Can I bring them out of that low energy frequency? Because there's a lot of things, I think I told you, I see a lot of things that happen behind the scenes. There's a lot of things that set things up where there's always going to be this division. And it can be done in a way where the divide is really, really, really strong. And one thing that I said last year, and I think it was actually my very first live stream when I started announcing that, because I never really wanted to be known for this, but when I started announcing, some predictions because I felt that people needed to know. I said that there was going to be a point where there was like spiritual leaders and gurus and healers and astrologers and psychics and people that work in divination or help people and support people and guide people, that there's gonna be a point where there's this can't be it. We can't just sit here and just tell you to do these things or vibrate at the high frequency. Like everything that I say, there's got to be more. But it's gotten to a point where even there are some that I've noticed are not speaking from the heart or from the soul, but from the ego, and they've chosen a side now. And so that's not how you can't be biased. And so that's why I say you can listen to whoever you want, but trust your intuition in terms of, is this the right person for me to listen to? Okay. Now, the other thing that I did say was plasma was going to be a keyword for 2025. And we've had a lot of, solar activity. And that has a huge impact on us. That has a huge impact on Earth as well. It has a huge impact on our cells, everything. But I think it's okay for me to now say that when I say 2025, plasma is going to be a keyword, it is not just the sun, right? It's not just the sun. You're going to see plasma in different types of ways. All right. Now, And if you have any questions, I'm happy to elaborate. Some things that, by the way, I was going through my book where I take all the, you see June 1st, and again, I take photos of every page just so it's time stamped and you it's always there. But one thing I know, I think we went through June 1st. One thing that I noticed is I wrote Paris. Okay, so that's there. And I think that there's I think the things that you've been seeing with two billionaires, right? They're part of a bigger story. So just know that those it was, that's part of this journey that we're on. All right. And I want you to, and I want to say that like in a way to give you comfort. There's certain things I told you that there's going to be things that are revealed. I said there's got to be a lot of things that you didn't think that you would hear. And so just know that there's a bigger story behind those and some other world leaders that are gonna come into the picture too. Okay. And yes, I am definitely going to, I think I said this in my last session, I will bring a lot of these prediction videos onto my own website when I get the time, eventually, hopefully by July at some point, where I can talk more freely. All right. I wanted to, so you see June 3rd is here. Okay. Y'all see that? So I want you to pay attention to, I feel like there's gonna be, you see that I actually wrote July 3rd. So that's a day that we do want to pay attention to. It came up really strong. And then there was another, let me find it. So July 3rd is we'll talk a little bit more. I'll talk about more things before we get there. But around that day, because July 6th came up as well. All right. So between July 3rd to July 6th, there may be some things that you see. The earthquakes, the tsunami, the volcano, all of that we're talking about that you'll see this year. As there's going to be, or that we're going to feel energies of that. There's also, I wrote down New Mexico. The years of 1786, 1789 came up a lot, but in different sessions. So something referring to that time frame. And then lava came up again, and I think I brought that up many times. What's really interesting is about the last 3 sessions that I did, the channeling sessions, I was underwater a lot. There's a lot of stuff happening underwater. And again, I talked about this in my last live stream. There are facilities down there too. But there is an eruption. And it might be between July 3rd, 6th too, by the way. But that again, timelines change. If we vibrate this high frequency, we can change things. But I want you to know that this is more about, and that's why I always forget to say this. This is on this timeline, and this is really important because there's something I'm going to tell you that will make everything will make a little bit more sense. But all this is to expand your consciousness. Yeah. There is. Okay, so this is the first time this has ever happened to me. And this was when I was channeling on June 3rd. Yeah. Okay. So I was there. I was in my zone. Okay. And there was someone that was watching me. And it was as if they were doing it in a way where it was just obvious. It's just obvious. It's kind of like, when you're sitting on the subway and you kind of have that feeling someone's watching you and you look up and, maybe it's a person like sitting across you or there who, looks away as soon as you And it was just obvious. And this person was all by himself. But it was more like he was watching me to just not in a, it was just like, what are you doing here? I'm, that kind of energy, like a little detective following someone around. So that's never happened to me. And so one of the reasons why I talk about this, or I have to keep things vague, is because of these things, because it is commonly known that, these things can happen, and it just never happened to me until this time. And so what I had to do, and this is why, again, some of the things that I say are just, even for me to say it sounds a little bonkers. What I had to do was I had to change timelines. So it wasn't him. So it was a different him. I had to go into a different, like, I guess reality is what you would call it. I had to just shift onto another timeline where he didn't know that his other self was watching me. And that it's just like, just when I say it aloud, I'm just like, okay. But anyway, so this new person was showed me like a canyon side. And I don't know if it was like Grand Canyon-ish, I guess. Like it was still in that like New Mexico, wherever the like that area. Okay, where's I know it's late though, and I've been working all day on a Sunday, so my brain is, but anyway. So what he was doing was, I thought this was really interesting, was showing me the watermarks on the canyon side. And it's kind of like, the easiest way to explain it is like there were different levels of it. So like, when you see the lines inside a tree that show how old they are, um it was like that. There were different levels of these watermarks, and it was completely dry. There wasn't any water there, but there must have been a lot, along, because there was a lot of these watermarks. But it just brought to mind that, how I've brought up floods. Yeah, okay. And then that there's yeah. There's other stuff, but it's not like, I can tell you like later. There may be something with the countries that you know of right now that are not seeing eye to eye. Okay, but there really is a lot of underwater stuff. Like I kept being taken underwater. And then there's a lot of former presidents that we need to talk about. And by the way, I brought out my old notebook because I remembered something, and I was like, okay, this is, I don't know if this is a thing. And again, if you can tell me, but there was and I don't even know what this means, like what I wrote, but so you see that I wrote, and this was in December. This was the last, this was in December, okay? And so do you see how I wrote that? Like left eye, then lock system. And so I think that y'all know of, he was in the office with the, on the left. So that's what because that's an actual, thing, but in a different way. So however you want to make sense of that, but again, we'll talk about later. Now, here's the other thing. I ran out of, do you see that's the very last of that notebook? And so I had all this computer paper on the desk I just grabbed. And So there's gonna be well, you see his initials there, right? And then you see where you see that. I know my handwriting isn't like great. Okay. Now, and that's gonna be like all right. Now, there oh gosh. There's a lot. There's like 20 pages here. So I'm just going to tell you a couple things. You know who came through, which was very interesting, and this has never happened. What's his name? The Prince William. It's like he got really good news about something. Okay. So that might come out soon. There was also like a baby involved and another, because there was more than one visions, and then there was also, I think there's also like a funeral around that time too, because you see I wrote his wife, the what would that be, the prince queen, the princess, anyway, Kate, in a veil. Now there's also there's some things that we do have to talk about, but we will. I don't think now is the time. In a few weeks, but California Cat coming up, by the way. And then so did this is really, so this was yesterday, okay? And you see that this Columbia came up, and I don't know if you heard the news. All right. So there's going to be a lot of activity in Colombia, the country. And then, so that I'm putting that out there. And then there was also a lot of things that you may have questions about. There's things that are happening now that are going to be revealed with a big case. Okay. There's, and I don't know if, but the point I'm making with that is that last year I told you Hollywood is going to change. And that's that. So when that happens, you're going to see a lot of different things happen there and certain people. Okay. The other thing is, the economy. I've already talked. That's another thing that I've talked about, like in every single live stream, as we know. So just prepare for any adjustments that you have to make. And then the other thing is, I think that's, well, there's just some things here that I could not believe that came through, but there's I think the last thing I'm going to say is that, remember how I said that there's a lot of technology that we don't know, the public doesn't know about, and a lot of experiments that are happening and science that's happening behind the scenes that we don't know about. Well, I have, like, and any, like remote viewers see this too, and it's not like so what was really interesting is that there was, I saw like this, I wrote down caveman, and um that was frozen. But you see I wrote like chip, quantum chip, microscope, all of that. um I think there's been some things that have been, a lot of things that have been discovered that have been preserved, okay, in certain places, and with ice, where they're doing that. But the point I'm making with that is that there may be some moments of digital stuff, and we are that's when, you know, even with Pluto and Aquarius, that's like obvious, right? Technology is going to change, very advanced. That includes medical tech, genetic engineering, but I feel like it's just been something that's been worked on for some time. And I think the other thing is that the last thing I wanted to tell you was gold. Okay, kept coming up. Yeah, if you are looking into if you're looking into investments or whatnot, I'm not a financial advisor, but it was like one of those good feels. And then there was just so much. You can see there's just pages and pages. Oh, what I was saying about the something kept coming up with like fingerprints, and so there is going to be something. Here's the thing, okay? There's going to be something here. You see his name here, right? That's going to be a thing. And again, we can change. I'll leave in the comments. That's going to be a thing. But we can change the timeline. All right. We can change the timeline, but we can also have moments. But I just feel like with everything that I saw, when I put everything together, and then you can even see, I talked about the underground tunnels, right? Yeah. So there's still that. It's just to expand your consciousness. There's some things that are happening right now that when you have, and this is why I said, just always trust your intuition, okay? But when you have two like billionaires going at it in public, that's going to distract you. That's going to distract media. That's going to distract everybody from things that are actually happening. That, all right. So, but not that I'm saying it's not important. I think those are the main things. So the point of this is saying that there's going to be some big things that are happening July 3rd to the 6th. There may be some things, but again, timelines shift. There's just going to be some things that enter your consciousness that you may have never seen before or experienced before. But at the same time, there are certain things that have to happen. And it's the only way at this point, unless we can all vibrate at the high frequency, as long as we can. I mean, the divide is just so like two ends, and I've talked about polarity. So the more that we can move closer in the direction of, you know, compromise, meeting in the middle, but if that can't happen, it'll, you know, manifest in different ways. So just, you know, I think that we're gonna see a bunch of things that happen this year that I've already told you about, so I don't have to like go through them again. I just wanted to be here for you. If you had any questions you want me to answer about things that I've seen, because or the astrology that's happening or anything that's happening, yeah. But I think that there's certain things that are taking people's emotions to extremes at this time, and in different and many different ways, right? And so just remember to always stay grounded within yourself. Stay grounded within yourself. And yeah, you can feel emotions. Of course, we're all human beings and we're built with a range of emotions. You just don't want to get stuck in that energy. And you always want to, you know, always do things for the greater good. And that's just going to be a big lesson for 2025, especially when we get to the end of the year or the beginning of next year. But it's more about letting you know that there may be some like big things that happen that okay, we're going to have to adapt to this. How do we do this as a community? How do we do this as a collective? But there is a reason why like the world, we call it the world stage, right? The stage. Anyway, y'all are amazing. Does anyone have any questions about anything? Again, I did say this in your monthly forecast. This is kind of like a little bit of a squeeze this weekend, and it's still playing out through the full moon. And then I'm working on your forecast for when we get to the Jupiter Saturn square. That's going to be mid-month. And remember, it's Jupiter square Saturn, Jupiter square Neptune as well. But it's also just days later, it's the sun that's going to square Saturn and the sun that's going to square Neptune. And remember, they're all in fresh new signs. So it's a lot of energies that you haven't really worked with Saturn and Neptune in Aries. So it's a lot of like fresh new beginnings that are great, but it's Saturn's first test that you have to pass. That's really all it is. Okay. And how do you do that? You trust your intuition. You trust your intuition. You remain your authentic self. You're always striving to be the best version of yourself. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. And remember, we also have the Jupiter Cazimi right after that. We actually have a couple lunations too, where we will have the moon conjunct the North Node this month. A lot. Remember what I said in your monthly forecast, or actually, no, I think I said it in your June astrology overview. There's so much happening in June. I could spend an hour for each day. That's how much is happening in June. But yeah, we will have the moon, another triple conjunction with Chiron and Eris. We're going to have, we have a lot. We have a lot that's happening this month. But Venus is in Taurus. Venus is in Taurus, which is amazing. That was what, 2 days ago. Jupiter moving into Cancer tomorrow. So that's the two benefic planets in really great places in their homes. So it is, again, world astrology is just very different from personal astrology, but also this is also very we just leave astrology out of it, but sometimes astrology aligns with it. All right. Does anybody have any questions at all about anything? And remember, if you've already asked a question, I don't have a moderator or anything. So if you've already asked a question, you can ask it again, write it again. It's easier for me. But Nicole, you asked, well, that is a good question. How can I teach myself to operate on a higher frequency when my default is low? Well, you got to raise your default. That's all it is. Raise your default. And to, be honest, it really is, it really does start with self-love, right? And so we're in a place where every sign is experiencing things in different ways. And then you're on the brink of this full moon in Sagittarius that's helping you shift your perspective on things, especially, even as big as like your life purpose. And then immediately, a week later, you're going to have the moon in Pisces conjunct the North Node. And so it really is, raising your default. But even looking at things in different ways, and that's why I say when to expand your consciousness, try new things, shake things up, out with the old, in with the new. Okay, do new things. If you're walking home from work, try a different street. If that store that you see you never went into, go in, see what it's like. Right, a movie that you want to see, but you might be embarrassed that your friends you want to see that movie, go see it. Try things different. That's all it is, because that's when you start expanding your consciousness, and then you're feeling more confident in yourself. And you know what I mean? Like raising your frequency as well. It's exciting, and that's what, you can get excited about those things, and that's for everybody. That's for everybody. Um, but yeah. Okay, so M. Lopez, you asked, what is Saturn's test? Well, Saturn's karma. So you're just constantly being tested by Saturn every day, every day. And the harder the aspects, the harder the tests. And Saturn squares they're not easy. All right. So Saturn he's the authority. He's gonna test you. And everyone's different. Everyone has different birth charts. So even if, for instance, everyone can have a different experience, and your relationship with Saturn will be very different from anybody else. I can say that, yeah, Jupiter's going to square Saturn. Every sign's going to feel a different way, but it really does come down to your birth chart. So, I just came out of like my natal, Saturn squaring my Jupiter. I mean, that was bonkers. That's perfect timing for that trip that I took. But, I've had some really strong Saturn aspects and transits that some of y'all would think are really, really hard. But for me, they were fine. So everybody's different, I've got Saturn opposite my natal moon. Yeah. So I have that for a year because Saturn moves so slow. And what Saturn does is he retrogrades a lot too. So he'll go back over other things that you've already experienced. But anyway, so those are longer lasting aspects. And so it's just how you handle it. And Saturn opposite the moon, for me, like some people would be like, oh, I got this in the bag. But for me, it's like, that's a little different than the other aspects that, like a Saturn square Jupiter. But anyway, so it's just karma. And he's always going to there's got to be a planet that in your chart tests you, right? That's the thing about life. We have challenges every day. And so if you don't have these challenges, how will you learn, and how will you grow, and how will you thrive? How will you prosper? And so Saturn does come in. He's the one, and Pluto too. Okay. And Mars. But it really depends on the aspects and the transits. And so Saturn, again, in Aries, very new energy because he is with Neptune. But if you take Neptune out of the equation, it's been 30 years since Saturn's been in this specific sign. Okay. All right. And yes, absolutely, Michelle. Michelle, about praying, meditation, mantras, affirmations, all of that really helps. But the thing, and to add to that, there's a difference between, let's say you're on, I don't know, Instagram, and you follow all these positive affirmation handles and whatnot accounts, and you read them, and you like them, and you like them, and you scroll and you like them. There's a difference between doing that and actually letting it sink in and letting it register and taking action upon what it says. So there's a really big difference there. And that's something that I learned a little bit earlier on. You can sit there and you can, even pray, right? But if you're just saying things and not, because if you do it like every night or whatnot, you just get in the habit of just saying that you got to actually feel it. You got to feel the words you're saying, the intentions, you're setting them, right? You're manifesting, because we already vibrate, we're all made of energy. And so that's the difference. So it's really getting in the zone and feeling it, right? I think that there was someone, I forget who it is, who said, say I love you to yourself in the mirror like 10 times a day, right? So yeah, there can be people who just do it while they're brushing their teeth, or like putting on whatever. But then those who actually sit there and think about it and feel something when they say it, that's the difference. That's the difference. But absolutely, 1000%, that does raise your frequency. Brian, oh my gosh. Brian, yeah, okay. I know. Okay, so Brian, we have a connection. Here's a question. Do you ever trust the zodiac information that comes from AI or ask it to interpret dreams? That's a really good question. AI, by the way, if there's one big takeaway, AI is so what you see now is like 20% of what exists. You're going to see a lot more of that, and it's going to be integrated in our lives like that in big ways. So just prepare for that. And when I say prepare for that, there's so many ways you can turn your careers, use AI to help you, and it's very useful and beneficial for a lot of people. But it is going to be integrated into pretty much you already see it. It's like when you Google something, what's the first thing that comes up is like that AI generated stuff, and there's so many chat GPT types now. And anyway, that's a good question, really good question. Do I trust zodiac information that comes from AI? I don't. I would not recommend it yet. All right, because it's still, I've noticed, and a lot of different platforms, they work differently, right? So it also depends on the platform you use. Like ChatGPT, OpenAI is very different from like Perplexity, for instance, and there's so many different ones. It's good to get general information, but if you're asking questions about your birth chart, I would it's not there yet. It doesn't really understand like rising sign, ascendant. It doesn't understand a lot of and then you have to be very specific. Remember, there's over 150 house systems. It can pick up stuff from Vedic astrology. So I would say it's not there yet. All right. It will likely get there because there are astrologers who are actually coming out with astrology AI, and that's absolutely amazing. And that again, you're going to just see things it's going to happen, but it won't ever take away from astrologers, astrology readings, because you don't have that human element. And that's what really makes a reading. So you can do it through your chart. But again, even with these astrologers and their AI that comes out, it's still not going to be what you need, because astrology is also kind of like a type of therapy as well. And you're already on your computer all day. So yeah. So, and not you. Well, I mean, Brian, maybe, I don't know. No, you're not, Brian. I know you're not. But yeah, eventually, and it really depends on what you ask. Okay. So, and interpreting dreams. Um, I I think that is more based on intuition. I think that you can use AI to reference certain things. I think dream symbolism, really, it's the ancients. If there's anything that I feel like they would be the most accurate, if AI brings that up. If AI says, well, if you dreamt about, asking a question about AI, you know, the Native Americans said that's what this means, or you know, Greeks, or so if there's something there, that's more reliable, I would think. I hope that helps. And yeah, what day is today? June 8th? Of course you're asking that question. Wait, hold on. Well, no, that's going to be next week. Never mind. It's the moon is in Scorpio. Okay, so but yes, you're a Gemini and a Cancer rising. Um Am I overthinking this, or is there some significance to the fact that Jupiter and Mercury are moving into Cancer from Gemini? As far as my expansion, I'm not sure what you're asking. So maybe you are overthinking it. I'm joking. That's me. That's my Gemini rising coming out. I'm not sure what your question means, but I did your June forecast. I'd watch that. Um, because Mercury is conjuncting Jupiter today. Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's amazing. All right. So, um, okay. How much should we pay attention to our moon sign? I've been reading it's our true nature intuition. I talked about this Pogus fan. I talked about this in the last live stream. Um, a lot. A lot. But it really just again depends on the aspects. But that's when you get more familiar, and this is why I will always encourage you to read your sun, moon, rising all the time, because the more you get familiar with it, the more you will know what to watch in the future. For instance, me working on your forecast for next week, I'm already giving some signs like a heads up. And I did this in your June astrology overview live stream where I say that, Mars is moving into Virgo this month, right? Therefore, because the South Node is in Virgo right now, Mars is going to conjunct that South Node in July. And so if you have, for instance, we're talking about the South Node of the moon. So if you're a Virgo moon, you would really want to watch what's happening with your Virgo moon on a weekly basis, because all the aspects are really having an impact on that. You're going through big change, right? Same thing with Pisces moon, right? But the same thing with all the moons. I mean, when you add the moon and Aries on top of like Chiron and Eris, so the moon is very important, and that's how people often react, right? It's not going to be your sun, it's not going to be your, maybe your rising, but it's your moons, your emotions, it's instincts, gut instincts, it's intuition, it's the subconscious. And I talked about last time, 90% of what's up here is the subconscious. That's why I always say we want to expand our consciousness. It's only 10%. Okay. And so, yeah, the moon, it's, I would highly recommend it. Um, yeah, I would highly recommend it. The moon, rising, sun, all of it. All the planets are always having conversations, they're always interacting in some way. All right. Even if it's in a minor way. But yeah, I would highly recommend the moon. Um, especially if there's any conjunctions or oppositions, those would be what you really want to pay attention to. But the sextiles and the trines and squares are important too. And then there's other types of aspects that we won't get into because we could be here forever. But yeah. Sandra, you said Southern California coast. You're not going to I lie. I could use some more information on the earthquakes and tsunami threat. Well, what's really interesting. So I just I'm gonna leave you, and it's so funny. Not funny, but it's something that came up that I would read this, and I'll leave this for anybody that again, I have been talking about this. I have been talking about this since last year. Okay. And so I will leave that link for you. Okay. So that came out today. And so yeah, so I will I don't know if I can even present it. If oh yeah, I'll do this. I'll present this. I'll present this. There you go. Okay. So do you see that? So that article came out today. So it's talking about potential, right? So I would just read that article. I don't know how to stop sharing my screen. There we go. Okay. All right. So Paula B, good question. How to develop my intuition? I feel like I can't tell, when is my mind or my gut? I've been feeling a bit down lately, and I'm not sure what to do. Um, so there's a book that's going to be in this description box. It's called Your Sixth Sense. I read that when I was when I was in college, and that's when I was. Yeah, I don't know if you saw I talk a lot about my background and channeling and whatnot on that spot and inspired evolution, but that's when I was like, it was there were so many visions I was getting that I just needed to learn more. And so I read that book, and it's just so good in terms of like trusting your intuition, your body answering for questions, or you having that sixth sense, right? About certain things. I would read that. I would get that book. It's so good because I've read so many books on intuition. That's the one that's most relatable. That's the one that I feel like I would recommend over anything else. And it's been out for a long time. But it's really, really good. But yeah, then that's the thing. It's again, we're all human. We're all sometimes, we'll shift from our, physical mind a lot more than our higher mind. But when you start getting in the practice of developing your intuition, and it's little baby steps, right? Then you again, when you are in touch with your intuition, connecting with your intuition, you're not even phased by, like, you're already at that high frequency. You're invincible. You have no self-doubt. And it's just like another muscle, right? It's like even like your pineal gland, we can call it. And it's just developing that. It's making it's like if you want like good forearms, you go to the gym, you work on your forearms all the time. Um, oh gosh, that's okay. So I hope that helps. Lisa, how do we find your personal website? Oh, it's just the tarotship.com, but the one that I build, it's gonna be I think like I don't know. I haven't even I haven't even gotten to that point yet. There's some things because I'm just like y'all, there's big things ending in my life for new stuff. All right. So I'll let you know, but it's the tarotship.com, but I will 1000% let you know when I'm ready with that. And hopefully again, like July, I say that now, I would love to get it done before Mercury retrogrades mid-July. We'll see. We'll see. All right. So did you see Washington State in the earthquake tsunami along the West Coast? Oh, I see. It was so I just saw the coastline. So I shouldn't even be just saying like California coast. I just saw the entire coastline. But I would say the hot spots would have been Alaska and California. Okay. And again, we can change. There are so many things that I've seen that I think I explained this when I was on. I think I explained this on Amrit's show on Inspired Evolution. Like some things that I'll write down like as a 50-50. Some things I'll write down because it's so hard to explain, but it's like some that I'm like really confident are going to happen. But then there's some things that are confident that I'm confident are going to happen. And then the next time I, have a channeling session, I don't feel it, or it's less. So remember, I know that I've seen like timeline switch, like I just did with that person, but I've done it with, and that's why even going through these papers or even my notebook, some things I see things on like my other timelines, which is just bonkers with Ruby, with my family. And so it's really interesting. It's how that can happen. So again, that's how I know that there are so many different timelines, and yes, we have switched. If we have switched many times, it's we all have to just learn and be a collective. No, it's a bottom line, right? But it's, it takes effort for people to it to vibrate at the high frequency. So everyone has to like really put in effort. Yeah. All right. Is it time to pull our money out of the financial systems? No. Well, I'm not a financial advisor, but no, that would cost no. But I'm just saying there's going to be adjustments, and that's the other thing is like, I mean, yeah. So when I announced this last July, I didn't know that there was apparently like there. So everything's going into like they want everything to be digital anyway. So that's why I say like invest, and they already got rid of the penny. Yeah. So you're already seeing this happen in real time. So when I say there's going to be adjustments, there's going to be adjustments, but it's the hardest thing to do what they're doing to make everything digital or crypto, whatever they want to do. So yeah, that's why I say it's really good to trust your intuition, develop your intuition, because everyone's different. What makes sense for me would maybe not make sense for you. So everyone's going to do things differently. And when you trust your intuition, you know exactly what to do. Yeah. But I think that I don't know if you know, but it's not, but yeah, the whatchamacallit, like Federal Reserve, it's not even, I mean, that is a private organization. So when I say things are playing out the way that they're supposed to, even though it may cause a lot of, people to fear and it just, I'll let you know when there are timeline shifts that, but there's just some things that if what you're seeing is not easy, turn it off. Turn it off. Go put on some music, put on a bunny costume, dance in the mirror, do something different, right? That's all you have to do. Okay? Because that's gonna bring you into that lower energy frequency, unless you're at a high frequency, like 8, 9, 10, love, compassion, self-love, enlightenment. Then it doesn't have that impact on you. It's not going to bring you down. I mean, well, it could, but the possibilities are so low. I hope that helps. Is it? Yeah. All right. Is Jennifer, you says anyone experiencing downloads during sleep? I feel like going to sleep is going through a portal. Listen, that's a thing. And it's so funny that you're the second person that's bringing up sleep and dreams. It is completely impacted by, we can call it the solar flares, CMEs, whatever you want to, but there is a shift happening. Okay. And so definitely pay attention. There are messages you're possibly receiving. So definitely pay attention to your dreams. And I feel like it is a time where a lot of people are going to be having very vivid dreams right now. Okay. In a very different way. And go with it. And because you're going to be able to do like the more that you're in tune, because that's when you're aware, right? That's when you're awake. And or yeah, actually, yeah, if you're doing like astral projection, if you know what I mean, like you could do lucid dreaming as well. That's always like really fun when you get to a point where you can do that. I'm just letting you know. So just see what the messages are that are coming for you. When you trust your intuition, everything will click. Everything will click. And a lot of it would be prophetic too. You may have dreams that actually happen, right? Like it's just, I've had some that like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, like, I dreamt about this moving here, or things like that. It's interesting. The other thing I was gonna say, oh, I forgot it. Yeah, I meant, yeah, the power grids, the that blackouts and stuff like that too. Yeah, that's still like, yeah, okay. So I told you, like, just prepare just in case if there's, what would you need for a day or two if you didn't have electricity. Um and it may even be, so that's related to one of the things that's happening right now on a global thing. I talked about underwater cables that, so there may be more news with that you may hear over the summer. FYI. But it's already happened a couple times, right? The tampering with them. But I think that's one of the reasons I keep being brought underwater. There's so much like stuff there. And I think I mentioned on Amrit's show about the black hole. I can't, that's the only way I can explain it. This black hole that was underwater. That was like the only like I mean I go deeper into that, but I'll do that when I put everything on my own channel. Bernie, you asked, are there any exercises to help a friend or loved one manifest? Are there any exercises to help a friend or loved one manifest? Oh, I see. I think. Are there any exercises to help a friend or loved one manifest like what they want? I think just being with them. I think that that's the thing. Again, we're energetic beings. When I think that if they're trying to get something to manifest, I think being with them, showing support, showing that you care, but in ways, again, that maybe in ways that you've never done before. So they see that you're doing something in a different way. And there's a little, that click in the back of the head. And then they have that sense of appreciation and gratitude, and that raises their frequency. And the higher your frequency, the more you're going to attract. So I think that would be it. All right, so y'all, I gotta go. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna just, okay, I think I'm just looking at your questions. I think that we'll just do another one. But yeah, I think that this is good that y'all are asking questions. I think that the biggest thing of all is trusting your intuition. Again, I think that when you find out you're doing that, you're not going to be phased by some big things that are happening. You're going to learn who to trust as well, because that's also going to be a thing where it's going to be a little bit harder to determine who's on who's, like, and it's everywhere. It's all around the world. That's it. By the way, it's all around the world. All right. So you want to start working on your intuition. You're in the perfect window right now this summer as well. It's just it's almost like I don't even have to tell you that, because I know that you will. Does that make sense? Like, I already feel that energetically that everyone's going to come to it, because it's such a spiritual, there's this level of spirituality that I feel as a collective we're going to reach that has not been felt. And so that's something to get excited about. And a lot of this is because, again, everything's changing, and we as human beings are changing. Our brains are changing. We're getting so much new information. Our consciousness is expanding. And that's like everything is, you're going to see when this month there's going to be a lot of stuff. July, there's going to be a lot of stuff. August, there's going to be a lot of stuff. September, we hit eclipse season. There's going to be a lot of change and stuff. Like it's going to be from this point forward. Like I said, first half of 2025, it's like, and now, but okay. I'm just going to scroll through, and I'm just, Brian, you're amazing. You're amazing. Thanks so much for this super sticker. Today was listed as a highlighted day in your Zodiacal releasing in this impromptu live stream really confirms it. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that, well, what is it? It's, well, Mercury conjunct Jupiter today. Maybe there were some messages you needed to hear. Maybe you will hear them later in the day. Maybe you'll hear them. You heard them already. Remember, it's powerful and it's seeding point. Use it. Okay. Jupiter's going to expand. Use it. Please use it. It's one of the best days for it. And then all the squares, technically tomorrow, right? That's the perfection. They're pretty much all of them are tomorrow. But again, they're strong. You're gonna feel them now. You started feeling them yesterday. So there's so much happening in June. It's like it's just like I can look at the chart, it's just like there's a little bit more than there's just a lot. And then Jupiter is also, with Jupiter moving into Cancer tomorrow, you're going to see a big shift this week. Okay. And remember, FYI, because some of y'all asked in comments throughout, different videos. Yes. The US is a Cancer nation if you live in the US. All right. And that's just letting you know. And Sag rising. But we're going through our Pluto return. So there's a lot happening in the US specifically too. But again, you're going to see a lot of big changes globally. Yeah. Denise, you said you're in California when Japan had a big earthquake. We got the tsunami warnings. Oh, and boats were harbored more in Northern California were damaged, and even debris from Japan ended up in California shores. Wow. I did not know that. Okay. Oh, so now you know. And that's the thing is just, I think that you do get warnings, right? Like if there was a tsunami or whatnot, you would get the warnings. But yeah, there's again a lot of I've already talked about like the GF. There's a lot, but again, Colombia came up, so we're looking at now South America too. And I've always said Alaska. I felt some activity up there, as well as the coastline, but there's just a lot more. You see that there's like 20 pages here. And there's just some stuff that like, okay, I can tell them this next time. I can tell them this next time. July came up, gold came up a lot, lava, but July 3rd to the 6th. But the 1780s came up a lot. All right. Any last questions, y'all? Thank you so much, Roberta. Oh my gosh, I really have to. I can't even. Okay, so you're asking. Oh, and Dawn, you're asking the same question. Okay. Is it possible to switch timelines during the day? There are times when I put the dog out, go into a Zoom meeting, and when I get off the meeting, he's inside. Oh, interesting. I think that's a whole other thing. But Roberta, yeah, that's a whole other. Roberta, you asked, so how do we change the timeline? Help our collective and community. I can't say it's easy to be immune to what's happening. Yeah, but it has to be as a collective. It has to be as a collective. Um, it's not like one person can do it. It's the energy that we put off, right? And that's really, that shift will happen. And it can be subtle. Yeah. Remember, time is it's a bigger conversation that let's say it's fluid. Time is fluid. All right. Things are not set in stone. There are paths, there are timelines, but time is fluid. All right. So, but it really has to be. I think I mentioned this last time. We can't it's just like we can't see others as, this side, that side, this, that, da 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 da. We're all human beings, and we are so far apart from that. We're so not even near that when you're going through your Instagram or walking on the street. It's like nobody thinks like, oh, we're a collective, we're human beings. It's like things that are kind of put into our consciousness that's on social media or the news or whatever it is. It's just it's one against the other. So it's once we start moving away from that energy, we have so much power. We have so much power. And I have told you there's other powers that are up there, way, way beyond that, like humans, by the way, that can do that can, control the narrative and make people feel certain ways. And so I think that when there's visibility there, and it and it and it and it will happen. So that's great. But it'll take some time. And but we can accelerate that timeline if we all started. Yeah. And so spread that word, tell everyone to vibrate at high frequency. And if someone is coming at you, just don't let anyone take away your power, but also maybe that's your Saturn test. Can you help them out of their low energy? I wonder if it's possible, right? So yeah. Oh, I mentioned the housing market. I did, right? That was a long time ago, but that came up again. I think I actually, oh, you know what? I did. I gave dates. I think it was like August 9th, or it was something like that. Anyway, y'all are amazing. Thank you so much. And your videos this week, because oh gosh, they will still go up on Wednesday. They're gonna be a little bit shorter than normal. And then I think the week after, I'm just gonna do the rest of the month. But if there's one thing, again, if someone, and you had mentioned this earlier, where if you are feeling a little bit like stress or low energy frequency, or any of that energy, just remember you've got a Jupiter Kazemi at the end of the month waiting for you. You have one of the best new moons of the year. Even tomorrow, Jupiter's moving into Cancer where it's exalted. You're going to feel these shifts right away, but you got something really special at the end of the month. Really special. And a lot of great things in between. Remember, you got Mars exile Jupiter. There's so many great things. You have Venus and Taurus right now. So that's the other thing. It's like it's training your brain too. And things again are going to move more toward the heart and soul, right? When Jupiter leaves Gemini, all this energy leaves Gemini, which isn't, sure, Jupiter's detriment in Gemini, whatever. I have Jupiter in Gemini, but it's more of the mind. But now you're going to have that, right? Like, okay. So, all right, y'all are amazing. Thanks so much. I'll go ahead and post this. And yeah, I will have your videos out soon. I did your Neptune Saturn video. I hope you got to watch that. Y'all are amazing. I'm always here for you. If you have any questions, anything, right? All right. I'll talk to you soon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. All right. All right. I'll talk to y'all later. All right. Thanks so much. Okay. Bye-bye.